Good morning. Welcome to a special Friday emergency Cohn Zone. This is extremely important. We have to talk to you right now. Right now, Dad, how are you?
I'm raring to go, Iggy.
Me too. The Niners lost the Super Bowl. It was shocking at first. It was hard to understand why. And as the week has progressed, more evidence has come out, more information. Players were mic'd up. We got to hear them talk during the game. And the big one is the coin toss. Because whatever you want to say about how the game went, the first four quarters, it was tied when they flipped that coin. And, well, Dad, you watched the video. It's 1 minute and 15 seconds. Why don't you describe what happened?
Okay, I'd like to do a little background. A lot of people I get on Twitter, why are we going to talk about the coin toss? Why are we going to talk about the overtime? Because that was a decisive moment in the game.
Yep.
And what I find very interesting, the decisive moment did not happen on a football play. It happened on a thought play, on a decision. So Iggy showed me the video. It's very clear. Kyle says, if we win the toss, we want to receive. We hear him say it. That's a paraphrase, but he said it. And you hear Mahomes talking to Andy Reid saying, which direction do we want to kick? Meaning, if they win, they're going to defer and kick the ball. So that's clear. So then we go down to the coin toss, and you're the visitors. The guy says they flip the coin. He calls tails, and they win.
Mm-hmm.
And Warner says, we want to receive. Okay, now you see Mahomes jogging back toward their sideline, Kansas City sideline. He says, any number of times, they want the ball. That's a direct phrase, right?
They want the ball.
They want the ball, meaning, can you believe this crap? They don't know what the hell they're doing. And then tell him what Kelsey said. He was mic'd up.
We want them to want the ball. That's good. This is good.
This is good. We want them to want the ball. So clearly, Kansas City knew the Niners had blown it.
Yep.
And they
would finally there's a clip of Juszczyk on the sideline being like, hey, if we score a touchdown here, that doesn't end the game. I didn't know that.
Right. He didn't know the rule. This guy went to Harvard. And you got to be, a Harvard guy to not know the rule.
Yep.
Okay. So here's my a couple of things I want to say. Kyle Shanahan not knowing the rule led directly to the 49ers losing.
Yeah.
McCaffrey, whatchamacallit? Fumbling. The other guy, Luter, going what? And Ray. None of that mattered. It's all subtext. What mattered was when they flipped the coin and Kyle made not the wrong decision, the disastrous decision.
Yeah.
Disastrous. Giving it to Andy Reid and Mahomes second so they would know what they needed to do. And then, of course, going for a field goal because you knew they would come down and either get a field goal or score a touchdown and win. I mean, that was obvious. Okay. So here's some more stuff. After the game, not only directly after the game, but other times after the game, Kyle said he knew the rule. He had talked to the analytics people, and they all agreed that they should receive the ball. Well, if he talked to the analytics people, he has the worst analytics department in the league.
Yeah.
But here's what troubles me more. I am inclined not to believe Kyle Shanahan. Look, I'm not calling him a liar. I'm almost calling him a liar. I'm not in his head. I don't know what he knew or whatever. But he seemed to have changed his story several times. So this is what I'm going to speculate. He didn't know the rule.
No.
And he blew it. He blew it. That was the key moment of the game. He blew it. And then he pretended, I believe, my opinion, he pretended he knew the rule to cover his butt, but he really didn't, and he wasn't honest about it.
Also, he shirked responsibility. It's the analytics department. They made the decision.
Oh, that's him.
I'm the head coach, but it's on the talk to the analytics people.
Right. You're absolutely right. He never takes responsibility. So I believe he pretended to know the rule as opposed to saying, I should have been up on it. Or At the very least, I have no comment.
Yep.
But he comes out and I believe tells untruths.
Yep.
That's not good. That's not what you want in a head coach, and it's not what you want in a leader. First of all, you want someone who does the hard work and knows the goddamn rule.
Right.
He needs to know the rule, and I don't believe he did. And then he fibs about it. That's my opinion. Iggy, that's very bad. That's very Iggy, I think it's a firing offense.
I agree. Because what he did was unprofessional.
Unprofessional.
From the beginning to the end. From the bad decision, not doing your homework, not knowing the rule, not necessarily telling the whole truth about it, changing your story 800 times. Unprofessional.
Yeah. Unprofessional. And what's interesting to me, Iggy, and because I'm on Twitter and whatever they call X, and so many people defend, and they're fans, I understand it, and they get angry at me and they say, you and I suck and all of this. I don't see why people are defending Kyle. He doesn't deserve to be defended. He lost the Super Bowl by not knowing the rule. Bill Walsh would have known the rule. Andy Reid knew the rule. How come Andy Reid knew the rule? Is Andy Reid smarter than Shanahan? I don't know. How come Shanahan didn't know the rule, which is my opinion? I can't prove it, but I don't think he knew the rule. And Andy knew the rule. And how come Mahomes knew the rule? And Kelsey knew the rule. And they were gloating. They were laughing at the 49ers. Kyle made the Niners a laughing stock. Iggy,
He did.
by what he did, like a high school team.
Yeah, and you could argue that the Niners would have won this game if Kyle simply knew the rule. If they'd gotten the ball second, you could argue they would have won the game. You could argue they would have won the Super Bowl last year if Kyle simply hadn't tried to block Hassan Reddick with his third string tight end. So really the last two seasons for the 49ers ended on horrendous decisions from Kyle Shanahan. Indefensible decisions from Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. And again,
incompetent.
Incompetent to the max.
Yeah.
Incompetent to the max. And people say, Iggy and Lowell, they're so negative, they're haters and all this. Not at all. We understand the gold standard of the 49ers. This isn't the gold standard. This is amateur hour.
Yeah. Amateur hour.
Mahomes was laughing at them. He couldn't.
The Chiefs are still laughing at them. Kelsey's been laughing on his podcast with his brother.
He has. He's laughing at them.
Yeah.
So Kyle has made the Niners serial losers in the Super Bowl and a laughing stock. And that's his legacy. He's a loser in the Super Bowl. Don't tell me how many championships he's gone to and how many Super Bowls. He's a loser. Eddie would have fired him. I would have fired him if I were the owner. Of course, I'm not. I would have fired him after last season when he got the quarterback hurt with Hassan Reddick. Now, not only would I not have given him after 3 weeks the extension, I would have fired him. I would. I think he should be fired. Iggy, do you agree?
I'm sorry. Look, he has the best roster in football. Everyone says that. He can't win a Super Bowl with the best roster in football. He's had multiple chances. A lot of coaches could win a Super Bowl with the best roster in football. Bill Belichick, I'm not a big fan. I wouldn't really be excited to cover him. He could win a Super Bowl with this roster next year. And he's available.
Yeah. But
the Niners won't get him because they gave Kyle an extension.
If Jed York really knew how a champion thinks, he pretends to know, but he doesn't know anything about being a champion because he's not. He would be having brunch today with Bill Belichick. He'd fly to Bill Belichick's home.
Eddie would.
And say, Eddie would?
Eddie would.
What would you do with my roster?
Yeah.
Convince me to get rid of my guy to get you.
Who would your offensive coordinator be? Who would your defensive coordinator? Yeah, convince me.
Convince me.
Yeah.
And I think, and maybe he wouldn't, but maybe he's aged out. I don't know. I'm aged out. But my point is, I believe it's worth a conversation. I believe Belichick, who's a pain in the neck, could win next season with this roster. And I'm going to say something else. I don't believe Kyle can win. I believe Kyle will always screw it up for himself. I believe he's like a tragic hero. He can never get over his tragic flaw, which is himself.
Yeah.
He's going to do well in the regular season, or not as well as you think, because he's going to lose to some AFC teams next season. But the point is, he's going to get to the postseason and screw up all over again, because I want to make this really clear. He screws up because he's a screw up. That's who he is. He's not a not screw up. He's a screw up and a Super Bowl loser, a 3-time loser. That's bad.
He had 10-point leads in all of them. Dad, what was more embarrassing, giving up a 25-point lead to the Patriots in the second half, or not knowing the overtime rule?
It's not even close, Siggy, not knowing the overtime rule. And I saw on one broadcast you showed me, one guy said, it's not really Kyle's fault. There are many levels of people this decision goes through. Baloney. He made the call, and we heard it. Yep. We want the ball. We heard him say it. There were no layers. The only layers was in his head. That's where the layers were. Iggy,
and I'm with you.
They need to fire him.
I agree. They need to fire him. There are better options available right now. You can't have this unprofessional loser running your team. He's had any number of opportunities. The job is too big for him.
Yeah, and you can't say, well, it was a little mistake. It wasn't a little mistake. It was a monumental mistake. And
Colossal.
It showed colossal. And it showed he may do the homework on his play sheet, but he's the head coach. He's supposed to know that stuff. He's supposed to set the tone. And you got this Harvard guy saying he didn't even know the rule. And later, a few days later, Juszczyk said, what does it matter if I knew the rule? Well, it wouldn't have mattered for him, but it mattered in the sense that the team wasn't prepared and the head coach wasn't prepared. That's what matters. Oh, Iggy,
also, how many times have we said that the Niners don't really have a head coach? They have 2 coordinators. They don't have a head coach. Well, when do you need a head coach? When it's time to know a rule.
Can I tell you something, Iggy? Robert Saleh would have known the rule.
He would have.
Robert Saleh would have known the rule.
Yeah.
He would not have made that mistake. And I'm telling you, Iggy, when Saleh watched that game and he heard the decision the Niners made, he probably fell out of his chair.
Oh, yeah.
He would have known the rule.
He would have known the rule. He would have known the freaking rule. Let's take some super chats, see what the people think. Antonio says, Brock will have to be the leader this team desperately needs, and he was the player more prepared in the offense in the Super Bowl. Brock was great.
Brock was great. Brock's not the issue.
No. Actually, the more I go back and look at that game, the more I'm impressed with Brock. His run game wasn't working. Debo wasn't getting open. The protection wasn't protecting him, and he didn't turn the ball over. He made plays.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback.
Good player. Yep. Says, I heard all season, no one's better than Brock against the blitz, just for Spags to kill them blitzing the final quarter while Mahomes ran anywhere. You blame Brock or Kyle on that one? Yep. Chanel West says, would we be having a different convo if we scored a touchdown in overtime?
They didn't score a touchdown in overtime. There is no would we. We're dealing with reality. We're not dealing with hypothesis.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's deal with reality. Bucket of Chicken says, Papa, what would Bill Walsh say to Kyle right now?
Okay, that's such an interesting question. I'll tell you what Bill Walsh should have said. He would have said to Kyle, I understand you didn't know the rule. It was tricky. It was new. He would have patted him on the shoulder. Then he would have left. He would have gone to his office and called me and say, Lowell, you're not going to believe this crap. He didn't know the rule. That's what Bill would have done. He would have said, oh, you're okay. Don't feel bad about it. And then he would have laughed on the phone. Say, can you believe he didn't know the rule? Lowell, they should fire him.
And they call him a genius. Yeah, they call this guy a genius.
That's what Bill would have done.
Yeah, Chicken Square 71 says, honestly, it was rigged. None of the players cried, and also Pat ran for 2 yards, and they gave him the 1st and 10 when it should have been 2 and 8.
I don't want to hear that.
Jay Keller says,
wait.
What happened? That's not true. I was there. There was a throw to Kelsey on that drive. It was a gain of 9. They initially called it on TV a first down, but it was not. It was 2nd and 1. So when Patrick Mahomes scrambled for 2 yards, it was a first down. That's what happened. I was there.
Okay. I also want to say one thing. We're currently, it's like I'm leading a graduate seminar. We're talking about overtime and what happened there. I don't want to hear excuses. I have no patience for excuses. That's fan talk. This is grown-up talk, what we're doing now. This is analysts, journalists, and not fans talking about what happened. Excuses stink. It's over with. Deal with the available reality. That's life. Let's go, Iggy.
I like it. Jay Keller says Kyle is just arrogant. That is the bottom line. He's a good offensive mind, but not a good leader. He will not be fired by Jed. No way. Who's also arrogant.
I agree with every statement you made, Jay Keller.
I would even say I'd take it a step further with Jed and Kyle. I don't even think arrogance quite captures how they act. I would take it a step further and use the word smug.
Oh, I love smug.
Smug.
Kyle is smug. It's more difficult to identify who Jed is because he projects different things.
True.
He projects different
True.
depending on the situation.
Just this guy hanging out with this kid. Yeah,
all of that.
Catch.
Or I'm a champion. The non-champion, all of this stuff. I'm a good guy.
I actually have football wisdom. I had to talk Kyle Shanahan into trading for Christian McCaffrey.
But with Kyle, he doesn't have many personalities. He's smug, arrogant, and Iggy, defensive. If you ask him, why did you elect to take the ball in overtime? He'll give you a lot of baloney.
Yeah.
He'll give you a lot of
like, who the hell do you think you are to ask me that question? That's not a fair question.
That's right. Who the hell are you?
Yeah. And he has no sense of humor, as opposed to Andy Reid, who has a really dry, self-deprecating sense of humor. And another thing about Kyle. He's a face of the league. He's one of the most famous coaches in professional football. If not, I mean, he's top 3. Where's his endorsement deal? Where's his commercial? Andy Reid has commercials, and they're really amusing. Sean McVay has commercials. They kind of suck. But, like, Kyle's really famous. How come zero brands want to attach themselves to him? Why?
Even Brock Purdy has commercials.
Where is his endorsement deal? Freaking Jim Harbaugh had a Dockers endorsement. Does he want one? Who doesn't want free money?
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand. I do understand. He doesn't have enough of a personality to pull it off.
He's a sour pickle.
Peachy Brown says, I'm still going through it. I can't believe that I just watched the most embarrassing and most incompetent behavior being displayed in a Super Bowl I've ever witnessed in over 40 years.
Peachy, I love what you said, Peachy.
We got more to talk about. We got to talk about George Kittle's moment too, but we're going to get through these super chats first. Dazza says, is this the year the Niners finally make a concerted effort to upgrade the O-line?
Who cares? We're not talking about that now.
It wasn't the offensive line's fault. Like, they didn't get beat. The other team rushed more than the Niners were blocking. Bryant Culp says, is it better to love and loss or never love at all? First one. James Welsh, you have a coach with fateful flaws and a quarterback who can't overcome them. Am I wrong?
Correct.
Yes.
But it wasn't the quarterback's fault. Let's be real clear. The quarterback played well enough to win.
Yep.
I want to take that back. He didn't win.
Well enough to not lose.
Well enough to not lose is much better, Iggy. It was the coach. I don't think we could be any more clear. It was the coach's fault, and if Jed had any gumption and any understanding, he'd fire him.
Bikramjeet Verk donates 449 something or others. It seems like a lot. Thank you. Yup. Says, that's on Kyle to be clear. Yeah, play calling was awful. Didn't move Brock around. Once again, Kyle can be good all season, but not when it matters.
Agree.
Seasonal Depression Comics says, have you two seen any of the mic'd up clips from the Super Bowl? They make the Niners look like unprepared, complete clowns. We just talked about the coin toss one. We're then going to talk about the George Kittle one. Words of wisdom. Bosa calling himself Kyle's friend. No, much like a father is not your friend. He's your father. A coach is a father figure. Is that in that you do as he says. He is your commander, your general. I asked that question, by the way.
What question?
I asked Debo, Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, and Nick Bosa, how is your relationship with Kyle Shanahan different from other coaches you've had? And Bosa said he's like a friend.
Whoa.
You didn't hear that? He said he's like a friend.
When did that happen, Iggy?
During the week, like on Thursday or something.
I want to tell you something. Again, the one I knew best was Bill Walsh. He said to me, I don't want to be the player's friend. Mm-mm. He said, I let players go. Yeah. They know that. I'm not their friend. And he said, I'll tell you something else, Lowell. If every player on the 49ers hated me, but they all hated me together, that would be good because they'd have a common cause. True. I would accept that. That's what he said. I don't want to be their friend. Let them all hate me. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. JM617 says, hey, George. Yeah, we're going to get there. Bucket of chicken. Papa, come coach the Niners. Grant can be the OC. Bailey Lund says, question for both. To what extent do professional sports teams players reflect the area they represent? Niners seem to have Bay Area arrogance.
I don't feel the Bay Area is arrogant. I feel the Bay Area is soft. It's like, it's all good. Have a great day. No problem. I do think the Niners reflect some of that, and I think the media does, and we're going to, for sure, and we're going to get to that later.
I think the rest of the country looks at us in the Bay and thinks that we're a little smug. Like, we're just a little bit more progressive out here. We just kind of take care of our bodies and the environment a little bit better out here. We drive Prius and that kind of stuff. I don't know if the Niners are like that, but I think that's sort of our reputation. We're a little smug.
Okay. Smug.
Michael J. Messina says Niners will make it back to the Super Bowl next year and lose to the Chargers. That will be Kyle's embarrassment trifecta, losing to Harbaugh in the Super Bowl.
If that were to happen, look, it would sort of
He's already
be like,
had an embarrassment trifecta. I'm sorry. He already has 3.
He already has.
Yeah. Sherpain says championship football requires he go for it on 4th and 5 and get the touchdown instead of getting field goals. I agree. Fish and chips Friday, Lowell bonus excellent. Oh yeah. Fish and chips.
Fish and chips. I'm sorry. Hey, fish and chips. I always love to hear from you. Thanks for chipping in. Chicken Square 71 says it was on fourth quarter 132 after a pass to 87. He runs for 2 and gets the first. Lello, look it up. I'm telling you, I was there. He passed to 87. It was a gain of 9. On television, they thought it was a gain of 10, but it was a gain of 9. They had to put it back. It was 2nd and 1, not 1st and 10. I'm telling you, Chicken Square. I'm telling you, I was there. All right, moving on. The fumble. So, first possession of the game, the Niners are cruising down the field. Christian McCaffrey getting like 9 yards a carry. He runs to his right behind George Kittle, who blocks George Karlaftis. And the play is coming to a close. And George Kittle kind of lets up a little bit. And, he's a jokester. He likes to have fun out there. He likes to keep it light. And he hasn't heard the whistle yet, but he assumes that Christian McCaffrey's about to go down and says, "Hi, George." Mid-play to George Karlaftis, who doesn't respond because George Karlaftis sees that Christian McCaffrey has just fumbled and the ball is rolling right by George Kittle's foot, and Karlaftis gets down on it first. And that just came out and we heard it and saw it. What do you think? You can look it up. So let's be real clear. There's good George and bad George on this play. And bad George is George Kittle because he stopped playing to be funny and cute.
Yep.
And the other guy who I never even heard of gets the ball, and now they don't score.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to say. I never heard of George Karlaftis, but he's now a champion.
You've heard of him now.
I heard of George Kittle, and he's again not a champion. Yeah. And that's not a champion thing to do.
No.
To be joking before the whistle blows, because George Kittle, maybe you could have got on the ball. Iggy, it's not as embarrassing as what Kyle did. Moment. It's a defining moment, and it's up there on the levels of embarrassments. You're saying, hello, George.
Hello, George. You said you didn't know who George Karlaftis is? He's a 2-time Super Bowl winner now. He's been in the league 2 years. He's won 2 championships. He had 10.5 sacks this year. Now everyone knows who he is because he's a hero.
And because, listen, I got to say, I'm going to go a little Brooklyn here, because George Kittle is standing there talking like a schmuck.
Yeah. George Karlaftis is a hero because George Kittle made him one.
Right. My mother, Eve, would have looked at me and said, "Lowly, this guy's a schmuck."
Yeah.
My mother, a teacher.
The universe wanted one George to be a hero at that moment. And it ended up being Karlaftis.
It was up for
other George took a moment to smell the roses or whatever.
And the other guy was ready to pounce on the ball.
I was doing a show with the coach yesterday who just left a comment. We'll get to him in a second. And I said that the Niners are like a villain in a James Bond movie. Like just when they're about to get James Bond, they have to stop and talk about it a little bit. Oh, James, I got you right where I want you. I've waited so long. I'm going to savor this. Like, would you just win the game?
Yeah.
Hi, George. Hi. I'm sorry, man. George Kittle, you're freaking 30 years old. George Karlaftis is 22. He had more presence than you. This was your second time in the Super Bowl, and you said, I'll be back. I'll be back. In the first drive, you were not locked in. I don't know what to tell you, man.
I'm going to use a cliche, but I think it really applies in this case. George Karlaftis wanted it more than George Kittle.
He did. You know what this
He
reminds
wanted
me
it.
of? Remember when we went and covered that Super Bowl in Vegas in 2016?
No, I don't remember.
Oh, hold on. You're gonna remember it. You were there. I was there. It was Broncos and Panthers. It was Cam Newton's moment. He was supposed to. Everyone picked the Panthers to win.
But that wasn't in Vegas, wasn't that in the?
I
Where
said
was
Vegas.
that?
I meant Levi's. I'm so sorry. Remember
Yeah,
that?
okay, that's
Okay,
where you
sorry
got
about
me.
that.
Yeah,
Sorry
yeah.
about that. Remember that
Where
game?
he didn't go on the ball.
And that's what everyone remembers about Cam Newton. I mean, Cam Newton
Yeah.
won an MVP. He made any number of great plays. I'm sure his highlight reel is a lot of fun. What do you think of when you think of Cam Newton not falling on the ball in the Super Bowl?
Right.
And that's what
Right.
you're going to think about with George Kittle.
I think so. Although,
Unfortunately,
Iggy, I want to tell you, I may disagree with you on that, and I'll tell you why. And let's get to the media.
okay,
No one's written about that I've seen.
that's true. Cam got crucified for that.
Yeah, I mean,
Cam
in the
got
Bay
crucified.
Area, there was one article in one newspaper by a friend of mine, and the headline said, "Don't blame Kyle Shanahan for this one. Don't blame Kyle Shanahan for this one." Who the hell else do you blame?
Is he your friend? What do you mean? Don't blame Kyle. Why? Because his
I
feelings are
blame
hurt?
him.
'Cause
I
he's
blame him.
sensitive?
I mean, I really blame him. And the more information that comes out, I blame him more. No one that I know of has written about what Kittle did. This should be on the front page of the newspapers.
Yeah.
What he did. And there should be an article in every local newspaper, to the extent that there are local newspapers, explaining in detail, step by step, how Kyle lost the Super Bowl with his bonehead, uninformed,
Yep.
ignorant, childish, unprofessional decision. There's no getting around it. Where is
And then he changed
column?
the story 8 times afterward to make it worse.
Where is the column about that?
Yeah.
Where is the local media? Are you there to cheer? Or Ira Miller would write about it. I would write about it.
Yeah.
Glenn Dickey would write about it. What in the world is going on when you ignore the key issue? It's like ignoring, you're writing about World War II and you don't mention Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Where is this? Where's the coverage?
There's really been no analysis of why the Niners lost the Super Bowl. Like, the coverage has been, what a tragedy.
Yeah. Oh, we feel sorry.
What a
They tried
tragedy.
they tried. They're good guys.
I mean, they
tried
really
so
meant
hard.
well, and now they got to try again, and it's exhausting. But look at them; they're going to keep trying, and that proves that they're champions. I mean, sure, they lost the Super Bowl, but the way that they're going to try again next year, I mean, that's championship makeup right there.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
And again,
That's essentially what we're getting.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And that the media is in their corner,
Yeah.
rooting for them.
Yeah, it's not Kyle's fault. Like, why are you piling on? I mean, he's having a tough time. Things don't go your way. It's football. Hey, it's football. It's not a 7-game series. Sometimes the best team doesn't win. Like when Kyle's the coach, the best team isn't going to win because he's going to mess it up. But, he's going to keep trying. And in 15 years, he may figure it out because that's how long it took Andy Reid. So, hey, when Kyle's 60, he's probably going to win one. So everyone just be patient. He's only 44.
He may eventually win one, but the difference between him and Andy Reid is really a good coach, and Kyle gets in his own way. Kyle fails because he's Kyle. Andy succeeds because he's Andy. Iggy, I want to bring up another topic. There was that punt. It hit off Luter's foot, and then Ray tried to pick it up and run with it, and it didn't work out. He didn't secure the ball. I want everybody to know this. I wrote a book on Bill Walsh when he came back to Stanford, and I sat in team and all the team, not all, but really most of the team meetings. He had a theme before every game, and he said it before every game. If there's a loose ball, never try to advance it. Fall on it. This is Bill Walsh, 3-time Super Bowl winner. Don't try to advance it because chances are you're going to screw it up and lose the ball.
Yeah.
Just fall on it. Well, where was Kyle telling Ray? Fall on it.
Yeah.
Where was he? That's another lapse.
Yeah.
If Bill Walsh, who's a demonstrably better coach than Kyle Shanahan, paid attention to that detail, what the hell does this guy do? He looks at his play sheet. He
Yeah.
calls a play no matter what the situation is. If
Yeah.
it calls for a run, he calls for 10 passes.
Yeah.
And he doesn't attend to the details of fall on the ball. Hey, what are the overtime rules?
Hey, we know the rules. Hey, they changed the rules a couple years ago. You know that? Are you aware? Well, what's your strategy? Do you watch college football? Because this is something they do all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got more to do. Let's take a little brief break and check out BetUS, sponsor of our show. I like their prop bets right now. A good one is what the Washington franchise is going to rename their team. They could go back to the football team, which is that's the favorite. Let me read you some of the other names for fun. And you tell me if you like them, Dad. Spartans. Why would you call them the Spartans? It's a terrible name.
Isn't that San Jose State, the Spartans?
Yeah, and it's Michigan State. Why would you, the Spartans? What does that have to do with anything? Okay,
Yeah.
The Magic / the Magicians. God, that's horrible.
Oh.
Why? The Magicians? Terrible. The Red Hogs, the Armada, the Washington Armada. You can't call a team an Armada. The
Do they
presidents,
have a
the
Navy?
senators, the Sentinels.
Okay,
You
yeah.
like those?
No.
They got you could actually bet on them renaming it the Redskins for 60 plus 16. I don't think they're going to do it.
No, they can't do it. It's not, it's out.
What about the Owls?
Oh,
Why
I think
would that
that's
even
one.
be an option? The Owls. It's pretty terrible. I think, you know what they should call them, Dad?
What?
The Jews.
Absolutely, I'm all for it. Iggy, let's even discuss that a little bit, okay?
The Jews.
People talk about you can't have cultural appropriation. It's not right. Appropriate us.
Yeah, we want it. We want for awareness. The Jews. We
Call
exist.
call them the Washington Jews. And listen, there are so many things that could happen.
Yeah.
They could have Bible night.
Matzo ball soup.
Right, the concessions. They could have matzo ball soup. You could get a Reuben sandwich.
Yeah, the mascot could be a rabbi.
With the
They
pay
got curls coming out of their helmet.
Out of the helmet. I love it.
Why not?
Yeah. And you could have at halftime, they could all daven and pray in the stands and
It'd be wonderful.
Weaving back and forth.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
called the chosen people. Are you kidding? Why not?
the chosen people.
Now you have to be circumcised. Unfortunately, you have to be circumcised to play on the team and be.
You don't have to be circumcised. Look, I wouldn't go that far. It's hard for an adult, but should you want to get circumcised, you know, have that blue tent. They'd have a tent next to it for instant circumcision, and it would be for free. Free, and there'd be a rabbi saying the prayer when you got your Brit Milah. So what circumcision. It could be circumcision Friday.
Yeah, and it'd be okay because you never have a game on Friday or Saturday. There's never going to be a Shabbat conflict. It'd be fine.
So here's the deal, guys.
We have permission. We give the Cohns give you permission to name yourself the Jews.
Yeah. I love it.
JC says lost it when Kyle started calling defense 2 timeout. Changed play.
Yeah,
Kyle is very controlling. He's very controlling. The coach says the lies signify the level of respect Kyle has for us. He lies with no conscience. You'll never get a straight answer out of Kyle. He's not capable. He's known for his candor, yet he punks out when it's time to be a man.
Coach, boy, do I agree. I always agree with Coach, but boy, do I agree with that. And it's true. He has no level of respect. He thinks he can lie any way he wants and no one will notice.
I'm just wondering, do people like the Jews idea? Would you wear that jersey, the Jews? It'd be like, they'd have like the little toss over, you know what I mean? Instead of how would that jersey look? It'd be nice.
It'd be nice.
The white and blue. It'd be a nice jersey. I'm just saying. Think about it.
Yeah.
Julio Rodriguez says Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay both lost in their first Super Bowl appearance. McVay seemed to learn from his mistakes and decided to trust his best players in big moments. McVay showed growth. Kyle Shanahan didn't.
Agree. And I'm going to add to that. Kyle Shanahan will never grow. He's incapable of growth. That's another reason they should fire him. I can't be more clear about this. They should fire him. They fired Mark Jackson over at the Warriors. Thank you for your service, Mark. You really were. Thank you.
You helped change the culture and all that good stuff.
Change the culture, and now we're going to move on. We're going to go in a different direction.
Brother Bob says Kyle should change his name to Kyle Levy. It fits.
I love it.
I love it.
So he could be. Yeah.
Yeah, D-Flow says, was it me or was having Ayuk, Jennings, and Conley as our most effective personnel? Purdy needs more pure route runners, not gadget guys, in my opinion. Interesting. Yeah, I agree. Bucket of Chicken, new member. Thank you. Rodrigo, $20. Been watching you since your first or second year. This show with Pops is the best and never miss it. I'd like to introduce a new name for Shanna. He's graduated from Banana Hands to Shanna Can't. Let's make this a thing.
Shanna Can't.
I love it. Shanna Can't. Niners, C-Mac got 30 touches, but C-Mac not getting touches for most of the third quarter and not using him at 3rd and 4. We played into Casey's strengths. Thoughts?
I agree. That's my thought.
Agree. Kevin A says, extra Cohn zone this week. Oh, yeah. The coach says, George loves the cameras. Well, he got it. And he got caught saying his own name. Hey, George was perfect. He was speaking to himself.
Oh, coach, you're so good.
Agree. Fish and chips. Ask Kyle Shanahan what you going to do to improve. Please do it.
Well, he won't see him for a while. And he give you, he'd
God,
be so
he wants
angry.
to bite my head off right now.
Yeah.
Gold Tau, 3 of 12 on 3rd down. Genius Kyle. Bailey Lund, Karlaftis is better, George, and is the better George and better DN than Bosa. We got to talk about Bosa. Bucket of Chicken, Papa Cohn, well done raising Grant. I hope to one day have the same relationship with my boy. Love the show. Fernando. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
The dream. Bill Belichick is head coach with Alex Smith as OC and Mike Vrabel as DC needs to happen ASAP.
Sounds good to me.
Brother Bob, K. Levy, ignorant. Do you mean dumb as heck? Wilkes equals distraction. Gold Tau.
We're going to talk about Wilkes.
Yeah. Andy found Mahomes, not Trey or Purdy. KOSCG. Kyle is a good play designer, aka not a head coach, aka not a genius, aka an OC. AKA I agree.
AKA I agree.
Dave Barclay, the Jews. Ha ha ha. Why not? Show some culture. Why not?
Culture.
You have our permission. Bucket of Chicken. Grant's YouTube tree is better than Kyle's coaching tree. I got one hell of a YouTube tree. Not to distract from K. Levy, but wow, Jimmy Garbaggio. Yeah, I can't. It's not really our problem anymore, but what happened, Jimmy? All right.
You may want to tell people what happened to Jimmy. They may not
Jimmy
know.
got suspended for using PEDs or something that he didn't have a prescription for. I don't really know what the heck it was, and I'm sure he's going to say it was a mistake, but what is he? How desperate is he to get his career back on? What happened? Not a good look. I think he's about over for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
I have much to say about that. Dad, was it correct to fire Steve Wilkes?
See, this is a very interesting discussion. I think it was correct. I do. I can say I think it was correct, but there's something I don't like about it. I think he was not the defensive coordinator for Kyle Shanahan. They asked him to change his philosophy, which is really not fair to a defensive coach and not fair to the head coach that you don't have a guy who's fully invested in what you do. So it was a bad hire from the start. Also, he did things that were in the overtime that were really not good. The winning touchdown, he had nobody on him, and it was a play he should have been prepared for because they had used it. Casey had used it in the Super Bowl a year earlier. So yes, I think it's fair to say that Kyle should have fired him. What I don't like about it is it gives the impression that they lost because of Steve Wilkes. But they didn't lose because of Steve Wilkes. They lost because of Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like camouflage. Now, again, I think it's fair that he fired him. But I come back to he looks like he scapegoated the guy. I think I say for the whole game, Wilkes was a better coach than Kyle. The whole game, he was a better coach. He didn't make the coin toss decision. He held Kansas City to 19 points in regulation. I thought until the overtime he did well. Again, it comes back to, yes, fire Wilkes. Yes, fire Shanahan. That's where I'm at. Fire them both.
I actually think they shouldn't have fired Steve Wilkes. I actually think Steve Wilkes did a hell of a job this year. And they'll say, oh, scheme or whatever. Like, they had the number 3 defense in the league this year. Sure, they had the number 1 defense last year. They gave up 17.5 points per game this year. That's phenomenal. The number 1 defense in the league was Baltimore. They gave up 16.5 points per game this year. 1 point fewer than the Niners, and he got fired for giving up 17.5 points per game. That's ridiculous. In addition, when the Niners defense struggled, it was not a schematic issue. It was an effort issue. Am I wrong?
No, it was. It was.
It was an effort issue. At what point do the players hold themselves responsible for that? Like, what? Nick Bosa, you're getting paid $34 million a year. You need a coach who can motivate you? What the hell are you talking about? Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Eric, like all these guys making all this money and they're jogging around the field in the NFC Championship game when they actually could get themselves up to play. Like in the Super Bowl, Wilkes was really good. I thought Wilkes did a really good job this year considering his head coach undercut him every step of the way and his players didn't even freaking play that hard. I thought he did pretty good. I thought he got the shaft.
I would agree with you. Kyle undercut him. Bringing him out of the coach's box onto the field was so humiliating. It was a disgusting thing to do. And you don't see the field as well when you're on the field as when you're in the coach's box. But let me ask you some questions, because I said it was okay to fire him. Didn't Kyle have to call a timeout because he didn't like the defensive alignment at one point in the game?
Sure. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan was down on Steve Wilkes. I'm just saying, when you take a step back and get away from Kyle's narrative, Steve did a good job. His numbers were good. Like, he didn't have a great pass rush this year, and the Niners still led the league in interceptions. They had a lot of great stats on this defense.
But let me stick to the Super Bowl, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In the overtime, Steve Wilkes played a soft zone, and he allowed Mahomes to drive down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And he was unprepared for the game-losing or game-winning play.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think that's a fireable offense, those two?
No.
Okay.
No. He gave up 25. I mean, he lost to Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
No. I mean, he gave up 25 points to Patrick Mahomes. Robert Saleh gave up 31 points to Patrick Mahomes and became a head coach 2 years later.
Okay.
Freaking D'Amico Ryans gave up 44 to Patrick Mahomes last year and became a head coach at the end of the year. Like, I thought he did a good job. I don't know. I know he didn't come through at the end. Neither did Kyle.
No, Kyle.
Like, how do you fire him when you didn't come through either? Like, fireball. Like, to your point, if what Wilkes did is a fireable offense, then you have to fire yourself too. Have to.
Oh, absolutely.
Or
Jed has to fire him. Jed has to fire him because he won't fire himself. Jed has to fire him. I'm going to tell you something else. Eddie would have fired him. Eddie fired George Seifert, who won 2 Super Bowls from Mariucci. Eddie would have fired him. Are you kidding? When it was explained to Eddie what happened with the overtime call, he would have fired him. He would have called the press conference and fired and told you he was fired.
Yeah.
That's what a leader does.
Yeah, he would have done
This
it
is
with
not acceptable. Not acceptable. Yeah. It's not 49er football. We don't do things like that.
No. Fish and Chip says, have you booked your tickets to Cabo yet, Grant? No. Not going to Cabo. Dave Barclay says, excuses are like holes. A-holes, we all got one. They stink. SF Bay drummer says, Joe Lacob is the only owner in the Bay Area that can write the checks with his mouth that clears. Take notes, Jed York. Brother Really Kyle Bob says, Kyle Levy fired Wilkes to distract from Cohn and loss.
It's possible.
Mojo McClary says, Eddie fired Seifert. Only policy prevented Walsh firing after 87 Vikes loss, and he lost Prez title. It starts with Jed. He is soft.
Among other things.
Jesus M says, Lowell, later rest. This Niners was the best team. The Niners, Lowell, late to rest. This Niners was best than 94. I don't know.
Wait, Jesus
this team was not better than the 94 team.
The 94 team won the Super Bowl. This team isn't also ran. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think he wanted us to lay that to rest. Did Wilkes play a soft zone because Kyle said field goal only?
Yeah, that's a good point. Hold this. Let's say he did run a soft zone, but the head coach is right there near him. They're on the headsets. He decides what you do.
Maybe that's what Kyle wanted.
Yeah, and he had every reason or ability to over. So I don't want you to play that. I want you to play this. Yeah,
maybe Kyle's been fired and we don't know it yet, says Easy Tino. No, I don't think so.
Maybe the 49ers won the Super Bowl and we don't know it yet.
All right, let's talk about how the Niners are going to replace Wilkes. I'm thinking there's a couple things at play here. One, they could bring in another outsider, But that just didn't work. The players essentially rejected Steve Wilks, even though he's pretty good. They could bring in someone else, or they could promote someone from within. And I think they have that. I have a feeling, Dad, they have their eyes on Robert Saleh. That's what I'm trying to say. He didn't get fired this year. He hasn't made the playoffs in 3 years. If he doesn't make the playoffs this year, he's probably going to get fired. And that organization's a mess. And he doesn't have a lot of hope unless Aaron Rodgers can do something. I'm thinking the Niners don't want to commit themselves long-term to anyone at DC. I think they'd like Robert Saleh back. He's a hell of a defensive coordinator. What do you think?
Well, if that's their plan, a whole season would have to transpire. A lot of things are going to happen. Robert Saleh is a wonder. It's more than a DC. He's a great defensive coordinator. But I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to be sexist. Robert Saleh is a man.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh is a grown-up man.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh is a nice man, and he's a tough man.
Mm-hmm.
He is everything that Kyle Shanahan isn't.
Right.
Robert Saleh is a stand-up guy.
Yes,
if he screwed up, he would tell you. He would take the heat. And people respect that. He is a better leader. He is a great defensive coordinator and a better leader than Kyle. And my guess is I don't know either one of them. So this is just a speculation. A better guy. A better guy than Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. No question. And I think it's going to be hard to do better than him. He could be back on this team, but are they going to wait for him? I think they will. I don't think they can afford to bring in anyone from the outside. I also want to say something else replacing Wilks. I wanted to say this on the last one, but I was saying that the issue with the defense this year was more effort and player driven than coach and scheme driven. Let me be more specific about who I'm calling out with the effort. All of the defensive ends. Nick Bosa, Randy Gregory, Chase Young. Cleveland Farrell, not so much. He played with a lot of effort, but he got hurt. I think a big reason that Steve Wilks couldn't defend the run and had a tough time is he had to coach the wide nine. It wasn't his thing. Everyone knows the wide nine strengths and weaknesses, and the DNs have to be really, really strong and disciplined at setting the edge. And Nick Bosa wasn't. He's the highest paid player in the league that's not a quarterback. And I think the rest of the guys either weren't equipped or didn't care either, or weren't conscientious about it either. That's a big problem. When the highest paid player on your team all of a sudden doesn't give the effort required to make the wide nine work against the run, then no one at that position will. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, they have Jim Schwartz running the same defense. He has Myles Garrett playing DN, which is Nick Bosa's position. Myles Garrett just won the Defensive Player of the Year. He's a far superior defensive end than Nick Bosa. He plays that wide nine technique to perfection, and Nick Bosa doesn't. So that would be another gripe of mine if I were Steve Wilks. You bring me here, you force me to run this gimmick front, and the DNs don't even do it well. Give me Myles Garrett. What the hell is Nick Bosa and these guys doing? Sorry.
I want to tell you, Iggy, after they lost the Super Bowl, a former NFL coach phoned me, and he said, I want to talk to you about Chase Young. And he said, in the 2 playoff games preceding the Super Bowl, he said he was so lazy, and this is his word, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
He said, this is the word, how he used. And again, he's much more attuned to it than I am. He called in those 2 games Chase Young's performance disgusting. And what he meant was no heart, didn't try, didn't mean ability. And then he said, why do you think the Washington Jews, although he didn't call them the Jews because they're not yet the Jews, why did Washington get rid of him? Because they knew he was that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was funny when the Niners made that trade. A lot of people around here were saying, man, they fleeced Washington. Washington's a terrible organization, and who would play for Washington? Wait till you bring him out here and you put him in the same huddle as Nick Bosa, and you get on this team with this championship aspirations. He's going to play so hard. And within 3 weeks, everyone was like, oh, yeah, Washington won that trade.
Yeah. And I want to say one other thing about Wilks, and this fans are not aware of. Because he just got fired this week, all the jobs are set. I don't think there are any more head coaching jobs or defensive coordinator jobs. I could be wrong. But the point is, I don't think he's going to get a job for next season.
Mm-mm.
So Kyle not only fired him, he screwed him.
Yeah. Screwed him.
Screwed him.
And a lot of these coaches they get nervous. If you're out of the league for a year, they feel like, hey, people are going to forget about you. I'm a little bit older. All of a sudden, I'm out. So Kyle could have ended his career. We'll see what happens to Steve Wilkes.
Yeah. Kyle screwed him.
Yeah.
You think Steve Wilkes likes Kyle right now? He's thinking, he fired me. It was a raw deal I got from the start. Now I'm sitting, I'm going to be playing golf.
Yeah. I may never be back in the NFL. I wish I had never taken this job. It's the worst decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what he's thinking. We'll take the rest of these super chats. Steve Powell says, you guys are spoiled and overreacting. 4 NFC Championship game appearances and 2 Super Bowl appearances, !
Hey, Steve, take 2 aspirin and lie down.
Yeah, have a Coke and a smile. Brother Bob says, Kay Levy will go down in NFL history for that coin toss.
Absolutely. And he should. And the point is, he's not going down in the Bay Area who's talking about it but Iggy?
You. And Gold Tao says Kyle's low T. Maya Ridley says team is undisciplined. Didn't know OT rules. Call Kyle a friend. GK speaks of fun, not fun. Stops before whistle. Doesn't finish tackles. Costs Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The coach says Salah could be a Trojan horse. I'll leave it at that. True. Manny PSF 95 says you're going to have a field day with Staley. Whiner who completely disrespects the media and deflects blame onto his players sounds like Kyle 2.0. Can't wait. That's if they hire Brandon Staley as their defensive coordinator. Steve Powell, I see you like losing Super Bowls and being second. Black Orchid says, do you think other coaches feel safe coming to the Niners with Kyle? I bet Steve Wilkes felt safe until he wasn't. God, that's a cautionary tale right there. Ask John Embry.
Anthony Lynn left.
Ask Anthony Lynn. Ask John Embry. Yep. Yeah. Ethan M. Shannon Sharp calling out Kyle. You know it's bad. Did he? As big of a gift Kyle has been for this team, he's as big, if not bigger, as a curse. Terrible head coach, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hey, he puts you on the map and then he tarnishes your reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But listen, again, you'll hear the announcers. He's the greatest offensive strategist in the league. His all that motion and what he does is to give me a break.
19 points in regulation. Couldn't pick up a blitz to save their lives. Couldn't get the best running back in the league any space.
Yeah.
Nice.
And what he did in the third quarter.
Legendary.
He blew the game twice. He blew the game in the third quarter when he didn't score and did all those passes. But God gave him grace. It was tied at the end of regulation. God gave him grace, and Kyle said, I can screw it again. I got out of the first screwing it, but I'm an overachiever. I'm going to screw it again.
Yep. And when Andy Reid gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, I sincerely hope he spends 2 minutes thanking Kyle Shanahan. None of this would be possible without Kyle. What a generous guy. He had me on the ropes twice, down 10, and just his ability to not get out of his own way and make me look good is why I'm standing here today. So Kyle, you stand up. You're the real MVP today. Hey, everyone. Kyle Shanahan, everybody, look at you. No, you won't necessarily ever be up here, but I'm up here and I'm giving you a shout out. Sorry. That's what happened.
Oh, yeah.
The Shanahans won't ever be in the Hall of Fame, but they put Andy Reid there. Good.
Is Mike not in the Hall of Fame?
No, maybe next year.
I think Mike deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. That's the other thing.
3 Super Bowls.
Could I say something?
Head coach. Yeah.
Here's the other thing. Iggy is better at what he does than I am at this stuff. We really did different things. But Kyle is not as good as Mike. He's not living up to what Mike did.
No.
I
think Mike had a Super Bowl by now.
And Mike must be thinking, oh, son, I don't know what he's like, but he may be thinking, hey, dude, you're not quite cutting the mustard.
You're not really living up to my legacy.
Right.
Jorgen 1990 says, we're the San Francisco Cowboys. Besides, why so much fuss about who receives kicks in OT? My defense should have made KC go 4-0 and win it. Official Beat Music 88 says, how can Jimmy G take PEDs enhance nothing? Dave Barclay says, coaches seem like they're fleeing Kyle each year.
Fleeing. They flee from me.
Jed York is a cipher. Manipulated. Fish and chips. Sal Jeezy says, Kyle and Staley together on the same team. My God. Flav says, Kyle Shanahan's team's biggest issue is that they hope the other team to hand them the game at the end instead of taking it. They need to get lucky and play a quarterback that will make a mistake in order to win. They need to get lucky.
Yeah.
Okay. Suki Pazuki. Why do Niners replace Kyle Shanahan? Who do Niners replace Kyle Shanahan with if he fails next year?
I don't know.
Salah. I don't know. Brother, really? Kyle Bob says wrong. Marv Levy and Bud Grant in Hall of Fame. Kyle Levy might. We'll see about that. Ethan M. Sharp strongly condemned Kyle for Wilkes. Good.
He did. Nice. Thank you.
Good. Ray Histo says people can say that Belichick as being outdated or whatever. One thing about his team, they were never unprepared.
Boy, do I agree with that. Wow. Do I agree with never unprepared.
All right. It's 11 o'clock on the West Coast. Thank you very much for watching a special emergency edition of the Cohn Zone. Yeah. That's my dad. I'm Grant. Dad, I love you. Great stuff. Thank you for giving me a lecture of your time today. I know you're a busy guy.
Yeah, really. Love you, Grant. I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you. See you guys.